Greetings! So in today's video, I'll be taking a look at these gorgeous colors from Masha's Watercolors. What I have here is a selection of quarter pans, a palette, and a brush rest, all made by Masha and her husband in their home. As far as I know, all the color mixes are completely unique to this artisan, with a very strong focus on granulating colors and textural paints. On their shop, you can find watercolor pans of various sizes. You can find wooden palettes, ceramic palettes, brush rests, ceramic pans. There's a lot of really inspiring stuff over there, and I'm really excited to take a look at these colors and to share my impressions with you. So a couple of notes. Like I said, everything from the shop is made by Masha and her husband. The watercolors are all molded by hand with professional quality pigments and a gum arabic honey binder. They will use all sorts of pigments to make their colors, so that includes cobalts and natural pigments with various levels of toxicity associated to them. And in this regard, these paints are not suited for kids. So if you have kids and you want to get these paints, make sure you have a storage space for them that is out of reach of tiny hands. Also, from what I've seen, Masha is working on a line of vegan plastic-free watercolor sets as well. So that's something really interesting to keep an eye on, whether you're vegan or not. All of the pigments used are professional quality pigments, and you can find all the info on the pigment composition of the colors. It's all available, so that's something that I really appreciate as well, because some people like to make it difficult to find the pigment composition of the paints, and that can be annoying depending on how you plan to use these paints. Also worth noting, because I know that's the kind of stuff you guys will definitely notice, but Masha uses cobalt yellow, so that's PY40. That is the color we find in Aurelian often, and you may already be aware that this color tends to not be very light fast. But Masha told me that the cobalt yellow that they use is rated very light fast, and she's been using this pigment and hasn't noticed any fading. Also, I noticed while painting that a few of the paints had a little spark to them, and you don't really notice it unless you look at the painting in a specific angle, but that's not because there are some micas in the paints. That's just a consequence of using hematite. It is an actual stone that is crushed into a pigment, and the composition of this stone makes it so that it's a bit shimmery. I was talking a bit with Masha prior to making this video, and I thought it was really interesting that the idea for these paints and the shop and all that came from her personal desire to use paints like the one she has on the store. And I find that when that happens, the passion for the color really shows through. You can tell from looking at these colors that there's a lot of love and care and attention that went into making them, and it shows. It's there. The paints are beautiful. They behave in such a pleasant way, and they're so fun to use. I'm really glad that Masha decided to make more and to share them with all of us through the store. A small note about the wooden palette is that the quarter pans, they fit really snugly in the palette. So if you decide to put quarter pans in this palette, make sure of the order in which you want to put them in, because taking them out could be really difficult. This is how I set up the palette. I made a little cardboard cover. Not perfect, because if it gets in contact with the pans, they tend to stick just a teeny bit. This is mostly to protect from dust. And I put the sticker that Masha sent me on top, so I know what this is. This is a beautiful brush rest. This is a small swatch card that I made so that I could leave it with the palette, and I would always have a reference of what color is what in there. In this sketchbook, I decided to stick down all the swatch packaging and also to paint a swatch of each color, but a much larger one. I wanted to be able to fully see the effect of these paints, since that's basically their main point of appeal, is just how textural and how they move on the paper when you set them down. As you can see, all of these colors are very unique and very particular and very beautiful. It was really fun to put them down on the paper and to see what kind of effect they would make. Once I had done that, I also set up a spread to test out the paints on a drawing. So this is said spread. On one page I drew a character and a bunch of items, and on the other page I drew a little scene featuring that character. All the colors worked really well together. I was able to layer and mix them and didn't encounter any issue. What I really like is that often with colors that have a texture such as these, if you use them with more water in a wash, they will separate more, they will go further, if I can say that. And that will make for a stronger texture of sort. So if you look at the sky here, you can see that the texture is very prevalent. But if you use them with a drier brush and not in a wash, like wet on dry, like I did for the little grass here, well, the texture is not as strong. So you have some level of control over how you want these colors to turn out. I really like this kind of super textural granulating colors because they can do a lot of the heavy lifting on a painting, and they add so much of that concept of having happy accidents, you know, Bob Ross. And instead of trying to control what the paint does and the texture and the effects, you just put it down and hope for something interesting. And that's always what seems to happen when using Masha's paints. I am very happy with these. I think these are unique and absolutely gorgeous and very fun to use. I like what happens on the pants here, where you have an area of a bit more texture on the bag. Another use that I like for this kind of paint is for rocks and ground surfaces. With very minimal work, you end up with this ground texture that I really like, that I think works well. And also rocks, you can make some super fun rocks with just the paints and not having to break your brain over how to render these rocks. Also good for skies, I would say. Like, I really like how this turned out. It's a bit stormy, it's a bit blue, you're not quite sure what's going on. Is it mist? But I like this uncertainty. Overall, what do I think of these paints? I think these are amazing. I think if you are looking for some really unique, really fun paints that will add a lot to your painting on their own, I would highly recommend checking out Masha's shop and paints. Of course, you know, I'll have all the links in the description. You can check it out if you want to. There's a lot of really gorgeous stuff over there. Not just the paints, but the palettes and all the ceramic. They do ceramic palettes, they do ceramic brush rests. I think there's ceramic pans too now. So you have a lot of beautiful things to look at over there. I hope you enjoyed this video, this closer look into these beautiful artisan made paints. Let me know what you think of what you see here in the comments below, as always. And again, thank you so much, Masha, for sending me paints to try out. And thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.